Hey guys, Eric here with my non-spoiler review of Prey. This is the fifth movie in the Predator franchise. So I'm going to dive into this I won't go into spoilers beyond what you've seen in the trailers and the basic plot synopsis for this film. Fifth movie in a very odd franchise. Predator began in 1987, of course, with a big hit Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that is still very beloved. But it's hard to say that a series that has had this many chapters has been kind of a dud, but at the same time, none of them have really taken off. Most of them have been box office disappointments. They never bring back the same characters. They set up sequels that they don't deliver on. So it's kind of just been this strange thing that's never really gone the way I think 20th Century Fox and now 20th Century Studios under Disney for the first time. It never has gone the way that it's been intended for. And yes, there are the Alien versus Predator movies as well. I guess the first one was a hit to get a sequel, but those are kind of a side project thing too. All of which is to say, Prey, the fifth movie in this franchise, I think is the first one to truly deliver since that original. I'm not saying there aren't good things about some of those other sequels, but they're not great in totality. This is a great movie. Prey, its storyline is simple and efficient, as I think good Predator movies can and should be. It is set in the year 1719, and it is about a predator coming to Earth to hunt. But that's the big twist here is it's a period piece, and that it focuses on Native American characters. Just takes everything back and takes away any of the tech or the weapons that were involved in those other films, both for humans, of course, but even the predators, look, they're spacefaring. They have weapons that are far beyond humans, but they still scale back what they can do as well. It stars Amber Midthunder as the main character, Naru. And, we get to know her early on. We see that she basically is living in the shadow of her brother, trying to prove herself. And into the mix, you get this predator that she is going to have to take on with the help of her people. This movie just really works. Dan Trachtenberg directed it. This is only his second movie, but his first, 10 Cloverfield Lane, I was a huge fan of. And since then, he's done some TV, most notably The Boys, the pilot to The Boys. He also did an episode of Black Mirror. I'm very happy that his second feature film is another great sort of franchise installment. I know Cloverfield's a little looser as a franchise, even than Predator, but now he's two for two, I think, in just taking something in a cool twist on it, doing something different with it. The idea of putting a Predator into a period piece was done a lot in comic books by Dark Horse back in the day, and I always thought that was really cool. Predator versus pirates, Predator versus Vikings, all these different things you could do. And it just works really well on screen because it's never been done in live action. It feels so fresh and different and gives you something, just a very different vibe than any of the other Predator movies. I really like Naru has a main character. Amber Midthunder is terrific here. I've actually really liked her since Legion, which I think is an underseen series that hopefully maybe some people will go and look up now if they like her from this, and I think she'll get a lot of fans from this. But she is so compelling, really holds the screen. A lot of the movie is just her or her and her faithful dog, on the run or trying to stop this predator. And she is excellent, and I think is going to get a huge, well-deserved boost to her career, her already burgeoning career from this film. Um, I don't have a lot of huge complaints about this movie. The only one I've watched it a couple times now, which also speaks to how much I like it. I will say the first third of the movie is a little slow by design, doing that slow buildup, maybe a little slower than it needs to be. There's a little bit of like, okay, can we get going? Because it's the fifth movie, we kind of are waiting for that, turn of the predator kind of really unleashing. But once it does, and I'm still think that stuff is good, just maybe could have lasted a little shorter amount of time. But once it gets going, it really moves. I think the action is great. It's really sort of cool, exciting action scenes. The movie looks really good too. I think it makes a lot takes a lot of advantage of these big open plains and the jungle sequences in it. It's a really beautiful looking film that also is delivering these very thrilling sequences. The Predator here is played by Dean DeLegro. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. And I really like this interpretation of the Predator. He is both physically, he's a kind of a leaner guy than some of the people who have played Predator, have been kind of bulkier. He's tall, but he's lean. and he's a little more sort of primal. I believe they call him the feral predator. And yeah, he's a little more animalistic. Again, it's set, centuries before any predators we've seen before. So he's got some high tech weapons, but less so, and kind of matches that. And even his mask, which you've seen vague little looks at, is more sort of like bone like than what we've seen with the sleek steel mask in the other films. It's a really cool version of that character. And really, there's only three prominent characters, and that's Naru and the Predator, and then Naru's brother. And I really like this character as well. Dakota Beavers, who plays this character, is brand new to professional acting. This is his first credit on IMDb, and I think he does great as well. The sibling dynamic is very strong here because, like I said, it's about this sister kind of living in the shadow of her brother, but he's not a dick. He's a good guy. He cares for her, and I think that really shines through. This is a movie operating at that sort of lean, plot light mode, and yet what it does with its storytelling is very compelling, very strong. And I think you do feel that emotional connection between the siblings. You care about them and care about what's going on, and you're involved when this predator shows up to mess up everything for them. The predator also in this movie, there's almost like a Jason Voorhees approach to him at times because he really gets to be just sort of this primal beast who unleashes. And yes, there is at least one sequence in this movie where you get to see the predator really go for broke against maybe people that you're not quite as upset to see die as others. It's immensely satisfying. I'm going to talk in a moment more about the fact that this is not getting a theatrical release, but I'll mention I am lucky enough to have seen this movie in the theater at a screening, and it really does play those moments as far as at home as well. Though I watched it the first time at home, and as my wife can attest, because she was in the other room, I was yelling out, I was cheering, I was completely engaged by this film. It just grabs you, and having rewatched all the Predator movies recently, it's the first time since the first movie I think it's operating on that level to just pull you the whole way through. Um, let's go back to the streaming part of it all. Yes, this is a Hulu original in the United States. Most of the rest of the world is going to get it on Disney Plus, where Hulu doesn't exist. Because yes, it's very funny to think that Predator is now a Disney character, but he is. It's a Disney franchise at this point. Uh, it is a shame because watching it, I do wish that this was a movie that people could go see on a Friday night and just watch together and get really into because it plays so great. On the other hand, look, it's the time. It's sort of sign of the times, right? A movie like this at the budget it is, which is like a mid-budget movie. It's not like a giant, massive budget, isn't getting made except for streaming these days. Plus, Predator as a franchise has been a losing proposition financially, right? It's kind of crazy this movie exists when just 4 years ago, The Predator came out, which was immensely disappointing. I know for me personally, because Shane Black doing a Predator movie felt like a home run. Whatever happened behind the scenes, we know there was a lot of reshoots. That movie just did not work at all. And it was a bomb. So the fact that we are getting any new Predator movie 4 years later is really cool. The fact that it's on streaming is one of those kind of you got to take it. We probably wouldn't get this movie if it weren't for streaming. Certainly right now. It would take a few more years, I think, before someone would say, let's revisit Predator again. But because Disney's like, look, we're trying to boost Hulu in the US, Disney Plus across the world, this movie gets the green light. And I'm just glad it exists at all, even if I can bemoan it would have been cool in the theater. But I think, hey, if you can watch it with some friends, do it. That's great. But like I said, I watched it the first time by myself at home, and I certainly was completely drawn into it. And I hope that Dan Trachtenberg does more movies in general because it had been so many years since 10 Cloverfield Lane. But also, I hope he continues with this franchise. He has mentioned that he has ideas for more. He's purposely kept it close to the vest, whether that means continuing in this timeline that he's created with Prey or jumping around, because clearly Predator feels great in an anthology in a way they never have purposely done. Like I said, none of the other sequels ended up getting other continuations. But now that they've actually embraced, we can set a prayer movie in any era. There's definitely a lot you could do there, even though there's other things I might be curious about in this timeline as well. So yeah, really big recommendation for me for Prey, which I was waffling a little bit between is this a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5, but I'm giving it a 4.5. I just think this it does the job so well, and really I think revitalizes this franchise in a way that I'm so excited for because it deserves it. That first movie deserved it and never quite got to this point until now. And yeah, I think Amber Midthunder. I look forward to everything else she does after this, but this is a hell of a role for her. So yeah, Prey. You can watch it August 5th on Hulu or Disney Plus, depending on what part of the world you're in. You should definitely check it out. You should also check out our interview we did at Comic Con with the cast and creators of Prey, where we talked a lot about the making of this film. You can check that out on this very YouTube channel. So thanks, guys. Keep it here. Plenty more at Fandom.